The 6 to 7 Figure Show, episode 77. Ready? Let's hit it.
Broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun outside Phoenix, Arizona. This is the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Tired of working so hard and having no time? Take your six-figure practice and turn it to a thriving seven-figure enterprise. And now, your host, author, speaker, mentor, and strategist, Frank Bria.
Welcome to the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I'm your host, Frank Bria, and today's episode, we are going to focus on high performance coaching. But first, quick message from our sponsor. This episode of the 6 to 7 Figure Show is brought to you by High Ticket Program. Did you know you're only 12 projects away from turning your six-figure practice into a thriving seven-figure enterprise? In the High Ticket Program Accelerator, we guide you through every step of growth and scale, a process we call LEAP. Imagine having a world-class project team guiding you and your team through each step of pain-free growth, all with the goal of becoming a seven-figure enterprise and moving away from painful, time-consuming business operations and client delivery. Get a taste of LEAP in your own business by downloading our free high-ticket program core offer Black Book that contains more than 60 pages of standard operating procedures for your business, including onboarding, customer service, graduation, and financial management, and much more. You can get that for free by going to the show's homepage, 6to7.show. That's 6to7.show for your free Black Book. I am pleased to introduce today's guest, Jeremy Smithson. Jeremy comes with a passion to lift and inspire individuals to remove "I can't" from their vocabulary. A dad of 4 children, married for 13 years, brings joy beyond measure, teaching, training, and coaching, providing knowledge and experience to focus on high performance. Jeremy continues to influence the business world, producing well-being and sustained performance. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So let's start off with this definition of high performance. There's lots of people who talk about that from the there's the sort of athletic world and a lot of other, what's your definition and what are you trying to achieve from high performance with your clients?
Yes, absolutely. Really good question. High performance it's an interesting thing because a lot of people think it only applies to sports or athletics, but it's in all areas of life. Now, what high performance to me looks like is it's a sustained energy of success that lasts for a long period of time. Instead of having the peaks and valleys that we go through on a regular basis, I've worked in sales for years, and you know how one quarter will go up, one quarter will down. My goal is to help individuals to sustain that high performance without burnout, and so that's how I define it.
Okay, and as you're seeing entrepreneurs or other business folks kind of go through the sort of cycles, the ups and down cycles, what are some of the big mistakes they make that are degrading their ability to perform at a high level?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see how and I've even seen this in myself, but as I work with professionals on a regular basis, we think that we're being the most productive that we possibly can, or we think that we're totally clear in regards to what we want to accomplish, but in all reality, we are just spinning our wheels and nothing is coming to fruition from it. And so I work really closely with them to make sure they have a process, making sure that they have structure to their day. Maintaining energy is something that's absolutely critical. Now, when I mention energy to a lot of professionals, they think, oh, it's just physical, it's just me exercising, but there's a mental side that is absolutely incredible. And what mental energy looks like is taking time prior to a meeting or a conversation to prepare yourself to know exactly what you're going to say, how you're going to interact, what that demonstration or what that call is going to look like, so that everything is totally clear once they conclude that conversation. And so my goal is, and you mentioned in my bio in regards to removing the "I can't." So often I hear that. Well, I can't remove those meetings from my day. I have to be there.
Yeah.
Well, what you think, but let's drill into why you're attending those meetings, why you think you need to be there. And in all reality, it's just a presence. It's actually not a good purpose to be there, where someone can take notes, return the notes to you, and you could be doing something else productive in that time frame. So there's a lot that people can adjust real quickly. And everything that I do is focused on the kind of the challenge or action behind it. And so it's not just going to be, hey, here's a philosophy or a way of thinking. It's, hey, let's go try this out. And you tell me if it doesn't work, and then we need to adjust it. But it's all fine-tuned to the individual.
Yeah. You're talking about managing energy flow, essentially, of the person throughout the day. I can imagine that a lot of listeners are thinking about this. And of course, they grabbed onto the I can't. And one of the first I can'ts they probably threw in here was, I can't find extra time in my day for prep. Like, if I get prep for every meeting, every conversation, like that just feels like a lot of work. But obviously, high performance coaches and consultants and executive coaches all talk about having that preparatory energy. What are some of the things that you find we're having to do to kind of optimize our schedule to make room for that kind of energy management?
Absolutely. Now, one of the research studies that's been done for quite a while is in regards to having productivity time scheduled throughout every single day. Now, one of the things to optimize that time is have some time prior to work. I actually sit down every single day with a journal and with a calendar to plan out my every single day. And I even answer questions before something happens, like what could be a stressful situation today, and I identify how to react to that.
Yeah.
Now, my morning schedule is very routine. So get up at 5:30, I read, I study, I meditate, lots of different things that help me prepare for the day, and I do that journal as well. That just kind of sets the tone for the day. But in regards to optimizing your time throughout the day, we talked about meetings. Like, let's really identify if you have to be at every single meeting. And what the research has shown is that if you can have 2 to 3 block times a day, now what a block time is, it's an hour time, it's 60 minutes, but for 50 of those 60 minutes, you are 100% focused with zero distraction on a certain task or project or whatever you're working on.
Yeah.
And then the last 10 minutes is re-energizing yourself to redo what you just did. But if you can have 2 to 3 times doing that throughout the day, the research has shown that you can increase productivity by 30%. Now, I don't know about you, but if I could work with a marketing team or a client success team or sales team and increase sales by 30%, I think that would be a pretty awesome deal. So I think it's worth identifying what can we do to remove the things that don't matter and incorporate those things.
So again, this is drive back to structure. One of the things that you talked about earlier is making sure there's structure behind it. I want to talk a little bit about your journey into this. So you talked about your background in sales. What's the journey for you personally that takes you from sales to high performance coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So my career has been a little bit it's mainly been an educational aspect, because early on, straight out of college, received a degree in communications and went right into education. I was a recruiter for a small college in Utah. And as time went on, I became associate dean, started teaching online. And then I wanted to jump ship and do the tech thing. And so I went into educational technology, wanted to stay in the education space and continued to teach while I was in that space, and moved into a more sales role where I'd be selling software. And did do well with that. My heart and my passion was always on the training side. So I'd find myself creating mentoring programs and creating all these different things to help people on my team or external from my team to just improve and be better. And then a couple of years ago, something happened in my life that I have been dealing with since I was 11 years old, and that was an addiction to pornography. And I dealt with this for a long, long time. And I had gotten to this point And in fact, my first job out of college, I lost my job because of that addiction. And so it was a big eye opener. That actually put a lot of shame and a lot of fear into my eyes. And so I went into hiding for 8 years where my wife and nobody knew. And then I had it. I literally had hit my personal rock bottom, and I'm a very religious person, and my faith in Jesus Christ. And I prayed. I knew I did not have the courage at the time to tell anyone, but I needed to change. I needed something to expose me, basically, is what I needed. So I prayed that my wife would find out. And what happened? 2 days later, my wife found out. And then I started my journey of coaching or on recovery and healing myself. And I got to a point that through that recovery, it went really, really well. I felt just so close to my Savior and also close to my family, to my wife. But I infused myself into a community of people that wanted to change and wanted to grow. And I found myself coaching on a regular basis these individuals and helping them change their mindset of, oh, we don't need to focus on the negative, focus on the positive here, or kind of reposition their day a little bit. And then I ran into, about a year ago, high performance coaching with Brendan Burchard, and started to really follow him really closely. And then this last May, I decided, this is what's going to support what I'm already doing. The values and the vision behind it is right in line with what I see. And so I decided, let's go full force. And now here I am, a year later after kind of jumping into that. And this is what I do full time now. So
nice.
It's awesome.
That's great. And, I think most listeners are going to identify with a journey that involves some, major life event that pivots them in a different direction. I think that's a common theme among folks who feel called to transformational work. So right. That, I think everyone's got their own individual stories of what that looks like for them. And it's I think, again, also this common theme of service to transformation. It's essentially a call to service other folks through that process. So that's a phenomenal journey. What for you is the unique element, do you think, to you coaching people? What's your story for them that attracts them to your coaching practice?
My unique aspect of it is that phrase of not me, but why not me? Now, let me give you a little bit of background about that. So when I was 17, almost 17 years old, my family moved from Portland, Oregon to Salt Lake City, Utah. That's every 17-year-old boy's dream, right? Leave your senior year of high school and go and uproot everything. Right. So it was pretty upsetting for me. I was actually even kind of dating someone. And so it was like, I was really upset that I was leaving her behind. I was leaving all my friends. And I ended up moving into my sister's house with my mom and dad. And it was all due to some health problems my dad was having at the time. Now, me being pretty a happy-go-lucky kid up to this point, I sat down in that setting and had no friends. I jumped from job to job to job that summer. I think I had 5 or 6 jobs in a matter of like 3 months because I would be there for 2 weeks and just hated it. But what I came to realize was I was hating myself. I wasn't happy with anything. And so I didn't know at the time, but I know now that I was depressed. I didn't know how to get out of this.
Yeah.
But I was very self-aware. And so I tried to get involved with my family, but it ended up with isolation and that kind of thing. But it all happened on a Saturday morning. I woke up, I was laying in my bed. It's actually about noon because I had nothing to do. So here I am still laying there, staring at the ceiling. And I was rolling through my mind, why me? Why did I have to move? Why did my dad have to get sick? Why am I in this situation? And then all of a sudden, a thought in my mind came that said, why not you? And immediately my mind shifted. And it was this huge paradigm shift for me. It was like, wait, I'm doing this to myself. It was totally situational. And if I want it to be awesome, I'm going to have to make it to be awesome. And so it was this really big shift. It was a big eye opener for me. And that is actually what I bring to the table here with high performance is, yes, we have struggles. We may not be the high performer that we want to today. We may not be productive. We may not be clear. We may not have the energy that we have, but why not? Like, why not me gain the understanding, learn the principles that are going to help me be productive? We have a huge gift called agency that we can choose every single day to be powerful. And so that's what I bring that's a little bit different to the table in regards to high performance coaching.
Yeah, that's interesting. What kinds of clients typically make up your practice? Do you have industry specific areas, or certain folks that you typically work with?
Yeah, so I am doing kind of two things right now. One, my primary focus is to help the community of addiction recovery. Me having understood that process and the need to have a really set schedule and that kind of thing really does help. My coaching is 3 months. It's fantastic. It's 12 weeks. So if someone's involved in a 12-week program and that's for addiction recovery or something like that, this could go in line with that. It goes really, really well with that. But I also am infusing myself into corporate to give leadership coaching and group coaching specifically for teams. And so right now I'm doing a lot of lunch and learns and infusing myself that way to help them amp up and level up.
Great. And kind of walk us through that process. As you're working with folks, kind of how are you taking them through this journey? You've indicated a lot of the elements here for us: the structure, the mindset, sort of the changing of that daily routine. How do you help people? What's the process you take people to actually implement those elements in their lives?
Yeah, so it's a one-on-one coaching is obviously going to be very different than group coaching, but in that kind of setting, I ask a lot of questions. So if you want to really do a percentage or something like that, it's going to be like 80-20. They're talking 80% of the time. I'm asking questions 80-20 that way. And what that translates into is, as Brendan always says, common sense is not common practice. And so my job is to, I do have some key principles, but in relation to that, you actually probably know a lot more of what you need to be doing than you give yourself credit. Yeah. And so my job is to bring that out. And so each week I have worksheets that they're going to be working on throughout the week. But by the time I'm done with every single session, there's going to be at least 3 action items. So for example, clarity, I'll just use productivity. Productivity was that block time. The assignment for that week would be, okay, every single day this week, have at least 2 block times. And then we're going to report on how that actually, did it increase your productivity? What did you find? What are the trends with that? And so each individual session, there is something that's kind of diagnosed to do along with our worksheet, but also we're going to discover some things that's just kind of organic in the session that they also want to accomplish too. Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a mix of having these core principles that you're building on, the structure, creating opportunities for mentorship where you're helping the client essentially apply those principles to their own lives. And then with assignments, you're providing accountability to actually get that done and follow up to make sure it's getting implemented. Does that sound about right? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. That's great. Do you have an example of someone that you've worked with that's got a great story you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, one young man actually. Now, in regards to like the addiction recovery world, I would absolutely love to be able to work with youth to be able to prevent the things that come from the heartache with a marriage or even financial strains that go on a family and that kind of thing. Yeah. So one young man, he and his parents came to me specifically asking for some help because he struggled with the same addiction as I did. And so we sat down over those 12 weeks, and it was amazing to see the transformation in him because it came from this young man that really, he graduated from high school. He didn't really have a lot structured. He worked, he had a part-time job that was maybe 16 hours a week. And so he had this free time. Mm-hmm. And you know how free time, idle hands is terrible for especially a teenager. But he just didn't find that there was enough structure for himself. And so the one that that session on productivity, we identified that he had 8 hours a day that he didn't have any structure. Huh. And at the end of the session, I asked him, I said, what did you take away that was like the big aha for you? And he turns to me and goes, I'm like squandering 8 hours a day doing nothing. That's just crazy to me. Yeah. And that was really the turning point. And that was 5 sessions in. He'd had some ahas up to that point, but at that point he was like, this is serious. Yeah. I got to make a change. Yeah. And it was amazing to see the transformation that never in his life had he gone longer than 2 weeks of sobriety. And he had been sober for a week when I started, and he's sober today. And so it was amazing to see that he wasn't focusing on the addiction anymore. He wasn't focusing on even sobriety. He was focusing on high performance. He was focusing on good quality things to do. Yeah. And he was a happy kid because of it. So that's one of those that really stands out to me.
That's a compelling story of the power of structure. That's great. Yeah. Jeremy, we're out of time. Unfortunately, I'd love to talk with you more. Really grateful that you've taken the time with us. I know you're busy to be able to have this conversation. But before we go, one last question. For those people who are listening to what you're doing and are interested in hearing more about you or connecting with you, what's a great way for them to connect with you and to get in touch?
Yeah, so my website is normally the best way to get a hold of me, which is alignforlife.net. You can read all about my coaching there as well. My email address is alignforpurpose@gmail.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, the linkedin.com/Jeremy R. Smithson. So those are the best ways to find me.
Excellent. And we've got those links here below the video. If you're on the show notes page, they're here as well. If you're out and about listening to this audio, come on back to the show notes page and click right on through, connect with Jeremy. Jeremy, thanks so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thanks for being with us on the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I've been your host, Frank Bria. And just a quick reminder about the free high-ticket program Core Offer Black Book that contains more than 60 pages of standard operating procedures on how to run your coaching, consulting, or expert-based service business. You can download that for free at the show's homepage, 6to7.show. That's 6to7.show for your free Black Book. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you on the next episode of the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Make it happen. Thanks. Bye-bye.